Hello out there, all you beautiful internet people, and welcome back to the Chamber of Secrets. I'm your host, Nicholas Cicada, and there are some mysterious voices coming from upstairs, so if that pops in any during this review, just ignore it. It was never really there, and the real mysterious voices were the ones we made along the way. Today, I'd like to talk about deconstruction in fiction. A deconstruction is a lousy, rotten, venereal disease of a concept that mostly plagues the comics industry, although it's definitely wound its way into other mediums such as TV shows and movies, and odds are you've seen at least one piece of deconstructionist media during your lifetime. Deconstruction, as I define it, is the type of story that constantly questions itself and asks why it exists, and just shits all over its characters and story and world and everything, to the point where you, as the consumer of this story, can barely even tell if you're supposed to enjoy it or be entertained by it or anything. Deconstruction is over-analysis of a story by itself to the point where nobody enjoys it and nobody likes it and it's not fun for anyone. It completely defeats the purpose of storytelling. A really great example of deconstruction is, of course, the ass-blasted vomit comic Watchman, created by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, who I like to call Brian Belland for shits and giggles. Watchmen is one of the worst comics ever made. I might in fact go so far as to call it the worst comic ever made. It's full of characters who patently suck, constantly argue with each other, all hate each other, hate the world, don't do any cool shit, don't save the world, don't help anyone, aren't likable people, and when the world ends, or when New York ends, or whatever the fuck the comic is trying to say, you don't care about it because you hate all these people, you hate this universe, you hate Alan Moore, and you just want to see it all burn. You want to see it just all fucking blow up in a big cosmic explosion so nobody has to deal with this shit anymore because it's so fucking insufferable and you can't stand Rorschach talking to himself anymore like, the world is so hard on me, yo, I'm Rorschach. To contrast this with a really well-made comic, like the first Wonder Woman comics by William Marston and H.G. Peters. H.G. Peters' gorgeous classical illustrations, and William Marston's wonderful storytelling, Wonder Woman being an iconic feminist narrative. You've got the characters, Steve Trevor and Etta Candy, and you've got this wonderful story set in World War II. It's absolutely knuckle-gripping suspense every single page. Wonder Woman's fantastic exploits during World War II. Or take Batman, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. And the best Batman comics, I would say, go from 1939 with the first ever Batman comic, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, all the way around until 1950. That's a pretty damn good decade of comics there. So much fucking Batman that people could be reading. Just wonderful adventures with the Joker and Scarecrow and Penguin and all these iconic fucking characters who are so well written, and Batman's motivation and character development and growth is so plausible. It's such a fucking great comic. But does anybody read, like, real Batman comics that are actually, written by Bob Kane, the creator of Batman? Of course fucking not. You read The Killing Joke, or Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, or you read A Death in the Family. Someone asked me once, Nick, how do I get into comics? Where do I start with Batman? And I'm like, with the first Batman issue, The Case of the Chemical fucking Syndicate from 1939, and then you stop after Bob Kane's death, because anything written not by Bob Kane is obviously not canon to the Batman continuity. After that, it becomes fanfic. Like, stop asking such a dumb fucking question. The only real Batman comics are by Bob fucking Kane. But for whatever reason, a lot of people prefer these angsty, garbage, deconstructionist comics that really examine Batman deeply as a character, really get in there, get into his fucking psyche, really tap into that. Oh, we can't just have a fun Batman comic where he stops criminals. Oh no, that's too simplistic for the 80s, baby. It's Reagan's America now. Let's have Batman fucking become a BDSM dominatrix. That'll be epic. That'll really sell the comics. That'll explore the character in new ways that have never been done before. Probably the best example of a deconstructionist Batman story would be The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, who, for shits and giggles, I like to call Brian Belland. This story is a really shitty, hackneyed, unnecessary retelling of this story, The Red Hood, which was originally written by Bob Kane in the original Batman run, and is probably one of the best Batman stories ever, where the twist basically is that the whole comic you go around just thinking, oh, you know, the Red Hood is a separate criminal from Joker, but then at the end it's just like, oh, there's a twist. The Joker was Red Hood. That's a nice twist to this really basic, simple, fun little detective mystery. Now, The Killing Joke, what it does is it says, hey, let's not only have it such that the Joker used to be the Red Hood, let's also have it so that we completely fucking ruin the character of the Joker by explaining his origin story in depth and shoving in all this shit about how he used to be a failed comedian and he had a poor wife and he couldn't pay the bills and he got hired by this group of thugs, so we try and add like layers and depth to this character. Yeah, we can't just have him be the fucking Joker, fucking mysterious and chaotic, you know, because that's only the point of the fucking character. No, let's fucking explain everything about him, just completely give him a psychoanalytical profile, because this is a deconstructionist comic, and when you're deconstructing media, which is what, you know, essays by like college professors are supposed to do. The media itself shouldn't deconstruct itself. That's kind of fucking stupid. When you're making a deconstructionist comic, you can't just have characters who do fun shit. You've got to have characters who constantly explain themselves and what they do and why they're doing it in the most hackneyed, boring, predictable way possible. It's fucking stupid. The Killing Joke isn't just a terrible comic that I completely fucking hate because it ruins the character of the Joker. There are points in the plot where it just absolutely does not make any fucking sense, but they write it that way for maximum impact. Like, there's this point where Commissioner Gordon is like drugged and put in a cage, and when he wakes up, there's one of the Joker's henchmen outside, except it's like this 2-foot tall guy who, like, Commissioner Gordon could easily beat the shit out of, even, you know, being, like, naked. He could still just, like, beat the shit out of this 2-foot guy, but he's like, oh, dang, I gotta see what the Joker is going to tell me. I gotta see what the Joker's up to. So he just lets this little 2-foot guy just drag him around with an electric shock collar. It's so fucking stupid. Like, that just ruins the character of Commissioner Gordon, because, like, Commissioner Gordon wouldn't fucking let himself get dragged around by this little 2-foot guy. You just got toss that guy aside and fucking run the fuck out of the Joker's crazy theme park, because why would he want to be in there? Just fucking leave. Like, the Joker's not there, he's just got this little 2-foot guy. Like, just fucking go. I'm becoming the Joker. This comic is so fucking stupid. The comic is also terrible because it uses cinematic language in a really obvious, non-subtle way. Like, there's a point where the Joker, before he becomes the Joker, he's dealing with these mobsters, and they're like eating this lobster, you know, and the point is that they're like greasy and greedy and bad seeds, you know, they're the bad types. Like, you might think, oh, well, you know, that's cinematic language, you know, Alan Moore is using cinematic language to show that these gangsters are greasy types. No fucking director in Hollywood would use a visual cue like that blatant, unless they're like a absolute shit director. And even then, you're not supposed to fucking use cinematic language in a fucking comic, because it's a comic. Comics have an entirely separate visual language to adhere to, entirely separate techniques, because the medium of storytelling with still images and words is entirely separate from the medium of storytelling with moving imagery. Alan Moore doesn't know that. For whatever reason, when Zack Snyder created his Watchmen adaptation, a lot of people said Watchmen was unfilmable. Like, you couldn't make a movie out of this comic that is so obviously just designed to look and feel like a movie in every conceivable aspect. And not like a good movie, like an ass movie. Watchmen's story is like worse than Commando, or one of those really, really low-budget Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. It's worse than that. It's like the worst fucking story, and the only reason anyone appreciates it is because it claims to be deeper, more meaningful than other superhero stories. But it's fucking not. Alan Moore couldn't write jack shit to save his life. Bob Kane is a fucking legend, and the fact that people prop Alan Moore over fucking Bob Kane, that's fucking mind-boggling. I'll never understand that. And this is why American comics are fucking losing to manga. Because we prop writers like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, and all these pretentious loser blowhards up. Reading Watchmen, you get the distinct impression that Alan Moore has like a seething contempt for comics. Like just a malevolent hatred for everything that fun superhero stories like the original run of Batman present. I have no idea why we put comics in the hands of incompetent clods who don't understand what make comics good. That's like if Dr. Dre made Jack Thompson the CEO of Death Row Records in 1990 and he was like, "Yeah, Jack, you'll do a great job of running this operation." I do think it's kind of important here to draw a line between deconstruction and satire, because whereas deconstruction is a story that just hates the genre that it apparently is, satire is where you just take a shit all over a genre, and you're not pretentious or artsy about it, you're just upfront about it. You know that what you're doing is shitting on a given type of story, and you use that premise to its maximum potential, but you're not claiming to be like deep or anything. For instance, Blazing Saddles isn't typically considered a really great Western, the same way that Watchmen is considered a really great superhero comic for who knows the fuck what reason. Blazing Saddles is a movie, a satire, that relentlessly shits on Westerns. It itself is not really a Western. And I hear a lot this tired adage that the best satires come from people who have a soft spot for the thing they're satirizing. As if satire should be nice and warm and friendly and cuddly. But here's the reality. Watching Blazing Saddles, you get the distinct impression that Mel Brooks didn't really like Westerns, and that's to be expected. He's an old Jewish man. There's no reason he'd be into stupid American Westerns. You also get the distinct impression that if an actual Western legend, like Lee Van Cleef or John Wayne, watched Blazing Saddles, they wouldn't look at it and go, "Oh yeah, this is a great, respectful tribute to the passion and power of the American Western. Yes, sirree, this does it justice." They wouldn't do that, and the same goes for Candide by Voltaire, one of the best pieces of satire ever fucking written. Reading Candide, you don't really get the impression that Voltaire was really into the lifestyle of the late 18th century, that he was just crazy about it, but they just kind of felt the need to give it a little light ribbing, you know, just to kind of make a couple ha-has about it. You kind of get the idea that Voltaire was like fucking sick of the world in which he lived and was willing to call out the inherent absurdity of it. That's why Candide got fucking banned, because Voltaire's a fucking badass, and he just makes fun of the entire world to like level 1000, and that's badass satire right there. Satire that doesn't give a fuck. It's not afraid of just shitting on what it's making fun of. It doesn't have a soft spot. It doesn't got the love handles. It's just trying to shit on something. That's what satire should do. So that's where I make the line between satire and deconstruction. A really great example of a terrible Batman comic, another one would be Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth. Holy fuck, this comic is stupid. It's just like, well, what if it was Batman? But get this, there's like mentally ill people in it. You know, even though like mental illness has been a facet of Batman comics since 1939, and we're just like pretending like we're introducing this new theme in here that's always been in here if you just read the original fucking comics. Like, Bob Kane was too stupid to make this shit. This shit is extreme, bro. So instead of, you know, Two-Face like robbing people or like killing people, you know, being a badass, cool-ass character in his cool costume and the cool, you know, split face that's half scarred with acid, what we get is a Two-Face that just whimpers in a corner and pisses and shits himself. And everyone's like, wow, this is such a deep examination of the character. He's pissing and shitting himself now. This is so cool. I love this. Who needs a Two-Face story where he does things and like contributes to the narrative in a meaningful, impactful way? Let's just have him piss and shit himself. This is a respectful use of this character. Yeah, good old Harvey Dent. Just completely incontinent. What a great way for this character to end up. Good job, DC, hiring Grant Morrison to write your stories for you. What a fucking genius. Seriously, Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth, is seriously style over fucking substance. And if it didn't have the cool paintings to go along with every panel, and it was just drawn like a normal-ass Batman story, nobody would fucking care about it, because it'd be fucking terrible. But because it's got these weird, psychologically deep paintings, instead of just like normal fucking comic book art, everyone's like, oh, this is fucking freakish, oh my god, oh bro, oh shit, this ain't your dad's Batman, this is new Batman, it's fucking intense. I've seen a video analysis of a serious house on serious Earth by this channel called Into the Depths, and he also made a video on a comic called Marvel Ruins, which is probably the worst fucking example of this trend. It's a comic set in an alternate version of the Marvel universe where every Marvel character is just like the fucking worst. Like, instead of the Hulk being, you know, strong and powerful, he's just like a tumor-ridden cancer patient. Spider-Man is like the same. Like, everyone just gets diseased and they all just fucking die. Like, Jean Grey's an underage prostitute. And all the X-Men are like in jail and they're gnawing their guts out. And Professor X comes around and like whips his dick out. And that's supposed to be like, you know, meaningful, like a well-written story. And the whole video, this complete idiot Into the Depths is just like praising like how boundary-pushing and provocative this comic is. Even though it's just like complete fucking sleaze that I have no idea how anyone could enjoy. I don't know how you can read a story where all the characters just fucking suck and they all just kill each other and the whole world is just fucking dying and go, yeah, this is a good use of my time. This is great. I love reading stories where the entire world is just broken from the beginning and then it just fucking ends broken, so there's no point and there's no stakes and the characters can't fix anything. Who the fuck reads stories like that? What's the fucking point? Marvel Ruins is a fucking embarrassment, yet Marvel allows the shit to sell because they're legitimately just willing to let all their fucking characters go in the gutter if it means a couple extra bucks from these deranged fans who want to read the story about Silver Surfer clawing his stomach open. And then like halfway through the comic, the art style just fucking changes, you know, because Marvel's a parasitic, unsustainable industry where they just have artists like replace each other every other page for no fucking reason, and the second art style looks like complete shit. But this video by Into the Depths is like, oh, it's such a brilliant creative choice. The comic's fucking trash. It belongs in the dumpster. And I don't even like the Marvel characters. I don't even like any of the fucking Marvel superheroes. This comic's offensive to me. It's that bad. It's fucking awful. So, if deconstructionism is a blight on modern comics and also to modern movies and a lot of things, in fact, what's the solution? The solution is an homage, where you take elements of stories that you like and then you make a new version of that that's just as fun and cool and awesome. A great example would be Star Wars. George Lucas, when he was young, watched a lot of Flash Gordon and Saturday matinee sci-fi specials, where it wasn't about constantly examining the hero, it wasn't about just constantly, what's Flash Gordon's sex life like? Never wondered about that. Man, wouldn't you like to know? Where's Flash Gordon's fucking inner struggle with his repressed psychopathy? Where's that, It's just like, Flash Gordon's gonna fucking beat up Ming the Merciless and then shoot his ray gun. It's gonna be a fucking explosion and you're gonna have a fun time. Because that's what entertainment should do. It shouldn't fucking constantly shit on itself. It should just make a satisfying, well-written story that you enjoy watching. So George Lucas sees this and he's like, oh boy, I can make Star Wars now, and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and it's not going to be a self-examinatory, deep narrative. It's going to be a really simple, archetypal narrative with very basic ideas that appeal to everyone, fun characters that everyone is going to enjoy, a story and plot that everyone is going to enjoy, and goddamn everyone fucking enjoyed Star Wars, as it's a fun, well-made movie where the characters don't constantly just rip their own stomachs out for no fucking reason. Because that's fucking stupid. Another great example, Raiders of the Lost Ark. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg go in on this. Tribute to classic adventure movies like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, but it's the 80s now, so you have a strong female protagonist, and it's a little more racially sensitive, and Indiana Jones. He's not a deconstruction of the action-adventure hero. He's just a really fucking well-written action-adventure hero who simultaneously pays homage to all those classic adventure heroes like Spy Smasher, Humphrey Bogart's character in Treasure of the Sierra Madre, while simultaneously, get this, being a well-written, interesting, fun character in his own right. Wow, wild concept. No deconstruction necessary. You just make a great, crowd-pleasing action-adventure blockbuster that everyone can enjoy. That's like a foreign concept today, where everyone expects every story to constantly examine and scrutinize itself and justify its own existence. What a sad, pathetic media landscape we're stuck with. There's an immediate difference between watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and watching something insecure and pathetic like Disney's Jungle Cruise, or even, to a certain extent, Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny. I doubt you could watch Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny without every other line just being, hey, why are we here? What's our purpose? What are we doing here? Why is there a fifth Indiana Jones movie? It's a movie with no confidence in itself. Exactly the same with the new Star Wars movies. It's not because these movies are like bad in theory or anything. It's just because they're constantly second-guessing themselves, and they're not helmed by people like George Lucas or Steven Spielberg who want to make fun movies that people will enjoy. It's made by these fucking hacks like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson who were raised on Watchmen. So of course when you're raised on Watchmen, all you're going to fucking do is, instead of making just a fun story that people want to watch and engage with, you're like, wow, isn't this fucking interesting? This world. Let me psychoanalyze and critique everything. While I'm telling the story that these characters in, they'll constantly be asking questions about why they're there and where they're going and all this pointless shit. You might say, Nick, you naive sot. There aren't any original ideas anymore, so the only way to make a new movie is by constantly reevaluating and rehashing and psychoanalyzing and thinking about every fucking old thing that exists and just constantly shitting on it while simultaneously pretending that you're making something fun for people to enjoy. To which my response would be, Stop deconstructing shit. It's terrible fucking storytelling. Stop making stuff like Amazon's The Boys and start making stuff like Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. Because it's been way too fucking long since people saw a superhero movie that's actually fun and enjoyable and worth watching. There hasn't been that in a good long while, and it's about time we got one. I'm so sick of superheroes who just whine and complain, or evil, and this is supposed to be like some big mind blow moment, but I've seen it a million fucking times, so there's nothing new about it anymore. What would actually be new is if you just made a story with cool characters and a fun plot that was fun to watch and didn't like constantly just shit on itself and have these depressing moments that just detract from the fun of the story. Just make a fun story for fucking once, you know? Not that hard, just do it. Stop reading Watchmen, start reading Batman, the original run, from 1939 to 1950, and get some ideas from that. If you can't come up with your own. If you can't come up with your own ideas, then fucking go for it already. Deconstruction, in summary, is a sad, really depressing trend that needs to stop. I mean, I'm not capable of depression, but I imagine that Watchmen has caused probably a lot of mental illness in contemporary society. Just a very bleak, ugly comic written by two British guys pretending like they understand American culture, or especially like something as niche as the history of American comic books, which Alan Moore knows jack shit about, and that's readily apparent from every soppy, crap-ass page of Watchmen. Stop making this crap, and let's start making comics that are fun and entertaining, and that's what I do. But I doubt DC or Marvel will ever bother. They're just gonna keep going like, death in the family. This time, Jason Todd could die. And I'm like, I'm supposed to give a shit about Jason Todd? He's not even the real Robin. Dick Grayson's the real Robin. Who the fuck's this imposter? Like, I give a shit if he dies. Where's Dick Grayson? What the fuck? Anyway, yeah, that's really all I have to say about deconstruction and narrative. It's just a really lazy, overused idea, and it's high time people stop using it, because it's nowhere near as clever, boundary-pushing as anyone thinks it is. It's a real hack move, and would actually be subversive in today's environment, get this, is just making a fucking character who's fun to watch, and interesting, and a good time for all. I miss back when that happened. That was a good time. Man, I wish I was alive to see Raiders of the Lost Ark come out. But all I get to see is frickin' Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Is it good? No. It's not good because it's based on a shit comic. The source material is rotten. The movie's rotten. Zack Snyder's entire fucking career is rotten. The guy's never made a decent movie in his fucking life. And stop giving him work, and let's get some new faces in the crowd, huh? Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. You might feel the temptation to take half your comic collection and chuck it into the dumpster after watching this little video, and I'd highly recommend doing so. And just keep the comics that are fun and worth reading, and discover some new comics, because there's a lot more than DC and Marvel, and a lot of them are really fucking good. Anyway, that's all I have to say here from the Comics Cave. Ooh, I gotta check my comics monitor. It's time to get to the Comics Mobile. So, Excelsior. And until next time, sayonara, suckers. Pow!